Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tuesday, October the 10th, and it means it's live chats with Maggie and Bunny. It would be Monday, but yesterday was Thanksgiving in Canada, so we took the day off because we can.
Yes.
And so today we're going to talk about time. Along that lines, I will also take this time to thank everybody for listening to Bunny Solo for the last couple of weeks as I was dealing with the sudden death of my sister and all that that entailed. And so I needed some time. And my partner here so graciously gave that to me. And that's what we're going to talk about today is time. So thank you, Bunny, for giving me time. The words that went along with that, I'm looking at my phone because when I took the dog for a walk this morning and said, Spirit, what will we talk about today? The word time came up in big, bold letters. And then when I was writing it to you, Bunny, I said, time reflects grief time, change time, relevant of time, time changes things, taking time, as well as now is the time. And time means so many different things. What comes to your mind when we first say just that word time?
Well, it's so funny because you said time and like my scientific and spiritual knowledge now is like time is a human construct. It doesn't really exist. But the reality is our world is based in time.
Yeah.
And we do have time, but I do believe time is relative and that the magic of it, quote unquote, not existing can be found in evidence in how sometimes the same amount of time, so a week, will feel different depending on what you're experiencing.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of, relevant or, whatever happens here in time.
And a prime example of that is if you go on vacation, it goes very fast.
Exactly.
If you're in the middle of a trauma in your life, a week seems like a year.
Right.
And it's true. Time, the significance of time is different. And I like when you started with that of the spiritual side, because yes, in the spirit realm, there's zero concept of time.
Right.
And that's why on a spirit realm, you can be anywhere at any time because there is no concept of time. And that's where, if creator or God or whatever people refer to it promises you something, the concept of time doesn't matter.
Right.
If your miracle is coming, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It's still every bit the same because time doesn't exist there.
Right.
And it's the same thing. I remember you telling me with your children when they were younger, you used to say, we're going to go somewhere today.
Yeah.
It's going to be very special. Didn't matter. The concept of time didn't matter. You told them we're going somewhere special.
Right.
That was a different concept.
Yeah.
It was something special. It didn't matter what it was.
No, it didn't matter what it was. And it is true. Like, because like I was actually just talking, I was telling you that I was talking to my brother-in-law last night on the phone. And part of that was him talking to me about time and passaging of time. And I said, yes, for the last 5 years, anytime that I have received messages from spirit, either through my own tarot readings or through psychics or, anything like that, through spiritual talk, through dreams, anything, I was told these specific things are happening. Now, for me, my humanness did not expect that would be still 5 years plus in the coming.
Right.
I was expecting it to be sooner, but again, because there is no linear time in spirit, it's instantaneous there, and it's just having to go through, because I do believe that there are things that we have to learn, or not have to, but there are things that we are going to learn. There are things we're going to experience. There are opportunities that are going to come up to take us on this quest of this space,
Yeah.
and this place, and kind of the things that will happen. And I think even in the concept of us, we talked about this before as well, is that something that happens to us today, we don't even know where that ripple will lead in the
Right.
future.
Right.
And that's, I think, important while you're going through the moments that feel like they are forever. Even marking, and I'm sure you're doing this as well, because this happens an awful lot in grief. When you mark, like, they've already been gone for 1 week, it's
Right.
already been 1 month. But so that when you mark that seems like it happened so quickly, but at the same time, those days seem like they lasted forever
Right.
while you were
Yeah.
in that.
And it's true. And that's where time in grief is very different than time in a normal day.
Hmm.
Because as anyone listening to us knows, when you're grieving, that grief just takes your breath away.
Hmm.
And you can't imagine that you're here. And especially if it's a sudden death, and even if it's a death that you knew was coming,
Hmm.
it still takes your breath away. And it's like, I didn't have enough time.
Hmm.
I didn't have time to get ready for it. I
Hmm.
didn't have enough time. And you sit and you think about all the things you would have done if you had enough time. When in actual fact, my sister died in the time that she was supposed to.
Right.
And exactly when was the right time for her, even though my concept of time is very different than her concept of
Hmm.
time. And for anybody who's grieving, that's what it's like, because time means something different to every circumstance.
Hmm.
The same as when we say, now is the time.
Right.
Now is the time for change can be something exciting, but
Hmm.
it can also be now is the time that I got to do something hard.
Right.
That word time encompasses so many
So
things.
many.
And, one thing like you and I had talked about earlier in the week was that you can hold more than one container at the
Mhm.
same time. And time can be more than one thing at the
Mhm.
same time.
Right.
And, I think one of the important things that we learn when we talk about time is, yeah, you don't have enough,
Well, and
or sometimes you have too much.
right, but and so when we're talking about that is also, like, I also think about with our kids as well. So another concept of this is when I see maybe somebody celebrating their child or grandchild's birthday, and they put, happy 5th birthday to, my daughter, and I don't see that person every day, so I don't realize that they're 5.
They're still a
So
baby.
they're still a baby, right? And so that's the thing too. And even when my children were growing up, and I would say, oh yeah, they're 20, and people, oh wow, they're like, no, they're not 20, because and then I would see somebody else and they'd say something like, oh, their kid is 26, and I'm like, what? And it's like, you forget that while your children are growing up, other people's children are also growing up. Like,
Yeah.
it's passing for them as well. And how about the other thing too, where this is, for me, it's a very in my face kind of thing, is social media and the use of social media as a way of connecting. There have been moments, there's been times that I have went to private message or direct message somebody and realized I hadn't messaged them in 2 years. And this person was and is holds very dear place in my heart, but I had not reached out in 2 years. Yet I didn't feel like it had been 2 years since the last time I had messaged them,
Mhm.
because the connections on Facebook and seeing the small little updates throughout their life, I thought that I had, known everything. I'd been up to date. And then it's only looking back, realizing that it had been 2 years since it passed. And it was like, oh my goodness. Or how about the thing, we'll get together. We have to make time to get together.
Right. Right.
What about that concept of that as well?
Yeah. And that's an important one because how many times that comes up, and it came up at my sister's funeral that my brother was speaking, and he said, you know, we don't say the things that we want to say. We don't make the time that we should have made, and then all of a sudden we don't have any more.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that's pretty important when you bring up that we got to make the time.
Hmm.
Why do we have to make the time? We already have time.
Hmm.
Why don't we just do it?
Well,
When
we're
that
not going to make
thought,
more.
yeah, like when
Yeah.
that thought comes into your
Yeah.
mind, I need to make the time to reach out. Why don't you just do it then?
Yeah.
Just do it. Like just reach out because there's only so many hours in a day. There's
Right.
so many minutes in an hour,
Right.
so many seconds in that time.
Right.
So just do it then. If creator, if the universe is whatever is bringing something to your forefront that you need to do in your life, do it.
Yeah.
Do it because that time is the time that is the right time for it. It's not the right time for it 5 years from now. It's the right time for it now. If I'm thinking that there's something I need to change in my life, if there's some
Mm.
measure of difference that I need to make, now's the reason. Now's the time that came up to me.
Think about even that. So when you talk about that, how often is that, you know, I'll start that new diet on Monday. I will start doing, this new thing on Sunday. Or also the concept of, because something has happened, it has ruined your entire day.
Yeah.
Like it's robbed you of that time, that one thing that may have only taken 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
like now you're saying, my entire day is ruined now. That's it. I can't. It's no, it's not. You still have that 24 hours is still
Yeah.
gonna be that 24 hours. That 60. I just had a little joking little reminder of the Big Brother episode where the one person wrote the time, and I was like, what was the concept of writing so few minutes? Because it was 7 days. But and so that's the thing. Sometimes the concept of time is just, it doesn't exist.
Right.
And it's always thinking we're going to have more time.
Right.
I will have more time. I will do more time. But at the same time, how many times are we going to say time?
We're going to say it a lot because apparently it's a really important word today.
Really?
And and when you're saying that, it's like we either have a lot of time or we don't have any time.
Mhm.
What?
We need more time or we have too much time.
I have too much. You've said that before to your children. You've got too much time on your hands. That's what the problem is. And then when you're late for work, you say, I don't have enough hours in the day. I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
How do we give it that much value?
Right.
Like maybe when those things are coming to you, that's the time.
Right. Because, and then with the spiritual stuff, or even it doesn't have to be spiritual, because there are some people who aren't on that woo-woo side of spiritual, but it's also like on the self-help side and that sort of thing, and meditation and mindfulness, and it brings you back to the present, because the
Right.
present is the only thing that matters. Of course, my brain also says yes, because some people, when they say that when you are living in sadness or depression, it's because you're thinking about the past, you're stuck in the past. When you are in anxiety, you're thinking about the future. But really right now, and when you ground yourself doing that 5, the 5 things that you can touch or see, 4 things you can touch, that thing, it brings you back to the now moment, because
Right.
really that is all that exists. And
Yeah.
in that now moment, it really is where we kind of branch out to every other place, and you can
And
time travel.
I think it's kind of funny that we're having this conversation today, when today is Tuesday, October 10th. In Australia, where the man is who taught us all about mindfulness, October 10th, which was yesterday in their world, in their part of the world, it was Mental Health Day.
Oh, I
And
had no idea.
they were talking about the mindfulness and bringing yourself to that present moment, staying in that present moment, because that's the only part of time that matters, is this present moment. And it's kind of funny when you look at it, that We weren't on live yesterday because it was
No.
Thanksgiving. We're not on live tomorrow,
Yeah.
even though it's already tomorrow in
For them.
Australia.
Yeah.
And it all brings us back to the concept of time. That time is different everywhere.
Right. And well, even on our own planet, we have time zones. We have different concepts of that too. All of those kind of this is such a huge topic. That's why I am gonna laugh a little bit, because when I asked you what do I write as our topic, and you said just time. It's just the word time. And we had no idea where it was gonna lead. And it's always so fun to talk to you and to have these chats, because this is what happens. This is what happens with us all the time.
And I think it's so important that it's for such a time as
Yeah.
this, because somebody out there listening to us, whether they hear this today live
Mhm.
or whether they hear it on Sunday when it jumps onto all of our podcasts, then is the time that they needed to hear about
For
time.
sure.
It doesn't matter. Or whether this recorded thing that is on YouTube, somebody finds it 3 years from now.
Right.
It's irrelevant, because that is the time. It's relevant for this moment in time,
Mhm.
and it's relevant for 3 years from now,
Mhm.
because it doesn't matter when it comes. It's the
Mhm.
right time.
Right. And I want to say as well, there are, when we were talking about the future, and just to kind of add into this point, is that right now you may make a decision for your future. Like sometimes I will say, future bunny is going to take care of that, or future bunny will love if I do this for her now, depending on what it is at that moment. Whatever I have set up for future bunny that then becomes present bunny gets to choose if she still does that thing that past bunny set up. So that's another thing as well, is that it's important to remember that just because you hold yourself to something, well, I should say, you don't have to hold yourself to something that you set out a long time ago, or even yesterday, or even an hour ago. You don't have to keep doing it. You can change your mind
At
as
any
time
time.
changes. How often do we use the word time in our language?
Because part of the wonderful thing about this whole universe is free will.
Mhm.
We all have free will,
Right.
and we get to behave, make choices, do things, live our life
Mhm.
as we choose
Right.
in every moment of time.
Yeah. And you reminded me as well that this past week, 10 days, I've been embarking on writing my own solo book. And I have found myself waking up in the middle of the night, like Maggie did when she wrote hers. And I always felt, as Maggie often says, that I've had enough sleep. Like I had the right amount of sleep for whatever I needed to do that day. And that concept is incredible when you start looking at life like that way, thinking I do have the same right amount of time. I know that there are people out there who are going to get caught up in sometimes in the rat race of the world. We get stuck on the hamster wheel where we feel like we have to do this, and this. If you feel like you do not have the same amount of time every day, and you want to find something, say that something is stressing you out, drop some of those balls. They're not made of glass. They will not shatter. If those balls that you're juggling, they're all made of bouncy materials. If they need to come back up, they will. And you can deal with it then. And so remember to reclaim your time. That's important.
Wow, that's a word.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, it came to me.
Reclaim your time, value your time,
Right.
embrace time. Like
Yeah.
there's so many ways to look at it. And that's why we're talking about this today, just so that you can look at it in your life of what's it all about? What does it mean to me?
Mhm.
And along that lines, feel free to write us and tell us what the word time means to you.
We're desperate for people. No, just kidding. We want somebody to talk to us. No, we're fine. We can talk to each other for hours a day. We're good. We don't, but we'll welcome people. We invite people to talk to us. Anybody who wants to talk to us, please feel free to do so. I have somebody at my door, I think.
So a dog's gonna start barking.
She did start barking. If you can't hear her, then but she's there. Anyways.
So that's it for today, Tuesday, October 10th.
And so I will let you know, that everywhere that podcasts are found, that's where we will be found. Go ahead and email us at ataboveandbeyond@gmail.com. That's it for me.
Thank you. Have a great day,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.